talk about like gaps. I mean, what was that about?
I don't think you start off in ministry and that's the first thing that pops into your head. Oh,
Right.
I need to be aware of my gaps. No, I think you go into ministry and you're like, what can I prove? Like, what can I show as measurable results? And those are all good. We want those measurable results in church ministry because it means that we're building the kingdom. But I think in an effort, and probably it comes from growing up in a pastor's home and in past generations, the way they did ministry was a pastor did it all the time. And no doubt a servant is worthy of his pay was the driving motivation behind our parents who worked hard by doing it all, morning, noon, and night. So we learn from that. We emulate that. And it took coming to the point of my limitations. And for me, that was a one moment that I could point to. I'm not sure of that for you, but I could point to a moment where I was like, okay, I can't do this. I need help.
It was interesting when I got to know you and Jeff, who moved from Ohio to here, and you were a pastor's kid. You and your brother grew up in ministry and are in ministry, and I was a pastor's kid. I'm a third-generation pastor. And so as I was looking at some team members that could jump in as we were growing and transitioning as a church, we're in 2024 now, so I know things the way we used to do it in 1960s, 70s as my parents did is different. But what I loved, Michelle, about you is I knew you understood the commitment, the heart, the grind, the initiative that it takes, and then the spiritual disciplines it takes. I didn't have to teach it to you understood that. So that's a good place for us to start as both pastors' kids. But you're right. You're asking, did I have a moment when I realized that I was and we write about this in our first chapter of the book, that you more found it because you're more humble than I am. I struggle with pride. I struggle with pride because I think that I'm a high belief, high optimist. I think I can do it all. And you're right. I did see my parents as performers, as responsible as they started a church. Yeah. There was no denomination. There was no Christ Fellowship or ARC churches. There was just them and God and faith. Hard work, going first, faith. So I've always led that way. I loved it. But you're right. I think that my issues were not so much, I think I have gaps. I think I kept on thinking I could be everything, do everything. And so I was resisting. I was resisting the awareness and the humility of I can't do it all. Can't be. And here's what happened is when I resisted it or I wasn't fully self-aware, my work got sloppy. I was late to things. I was unprepared, overconfident, underprepared, and there were. I think the gaps were painful because I saw the areas. And especially when you're at a multi-site church, you now have other campuses, other leaders to compare yourself to and say, man, she has it going on. Yeah. Or he is so excellent in this, or their ministry in this area is so great. And I started to realize it's not as great here.
Yeah, and I think even if you're not in a multi-site mega church environment, you still have the tendency to look and see what other people, because now we have social media and we can compare ourselves to what appears to be successful on the other side of a screen in other churches that are maybe our size or maybe a little bit bigger. So in this day and age, I think that competitiveness, that performance is still a motivation because I think in ministry, somehow we believe we can manipulate the variables for kingdom success. And that's not always the truth. We can't do it ourselves. I think we're a piece of manipulating the variables because we have something to offer. We all have something to offer. But I think Christ gave us the model that the more we bring into the scenario and solution, the more people that we bring in, the more effective we are. And sometimes it doesn't feel that way whenever we have our own issues of control or making impressions or pride. Those things that we want to conceal become hindrances to exposing gaps that we need to expose so that kingdom ministry can be more successful.